We're here to celebrate the remarkable life and extraordinary dying of Bobbie Walden, my companion and completion for some 60 years, who died this past August the 4th at the age of 78. Bobbie was always an activist, whether demonstrating at Union Square against the execution of the Rosenbergs, or stopping traffic on Riverside Drive, protesting some kind of a local ordinance, or marching in New York or in Washington against the Vietnamese War, or manning the phones and knocking on doors here in Palm Springs. She lived a varied and rich life as a dancer, an actor, teacher, therapist, and artisan. She also, as it's clear now in hindsight, led to most of my most significant decisions in our life together. Whether to move from the city to the country, to start the family, to move to Europe. She had to give up her own work to do that. And finally, to move here to Palm Springs. In all these endeavors, she brought me along with her decisions. She was born in Hartford, Connecticut, and moved to New York at the age of 18 after 1 year of college to pursue her dream of dancing. And she later danced on Broadway and in many modern dance ensembles in New York, studied with Martha Graham and the Open Theater. She went on to finish her degree and added to it 2 master's degrees, one in sociology, social work rather, and one in dance therapy. And with this training, she worked at the mental health field on the locked wards of state institutions, with addicts, and with troubled families. She was also a gifted poet and writer. As proof of her warmth and concern, there's been an outpouring of grief and condolence from dozens of her former students at the Arts Conservatory in Berlin, where she taught for 15 years. But for all her accomplishments, she always had a certain difficulty with zeros, confusing hundreds with thousands, and millions were hopeless. However, at the same time, she was capable of conceiving and creating the most complicated knitting and knotting projects, 2 of which you say before you, in the vest which I'm wearing, which was the last piece that she did, and in the rug, which is here on the floor before you, at which she persevered, Penelope-like, for some 17 years. Bobbie died at home, in my arms, as we had planned. With the help of hospice, family, and Carrie Cervantes, who didn't make it tonight, I'm sorry, I was able to fulfill all her last wishes save one. Many years ago, Bobbie was convinced that she was relying too heavily on alcohol to sustain her in her demanding work with patients. And in her own words, she couldn't justify helping clients with problems of substance abuse while indulging herself. So she stopped drinking completely. However, she told me that if she knew she was dying, she would love to have one last glass of her favorite Beaujolais Nouveau. Well, I missed out on that one. I'm sorry, Bobbie. I'd like to toast her now. Not with l'chaim, which would be absurd, but with lebevol, farewell. Her ashes are now incorporated into the artificial reef constructed just off the Florida coast, where the parrotfish and eel feed off of the reef and coral begins to grow.